use less than 9,000 a quarter.
All right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's call ourselves to order, please. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's take a roll call, please.
President Daniel,
Present?
Vice President Jones,
Present?
Commissioner Scholar, Commissioner Rivera,
Present.
Commissioner Williams,
Present.
Solicitor Hance, Manager Patterson.
Present.
All right. Thank you all for being here tonight in the wet weather.
Hello, Joanne.
Hello, Joanne.
Joanne, you missed the pledge, so I think you'll have to recite it by yourself. Do it solo.
Did I miss it by 1 minute?
You'll see on the bottom of our agenda that we have the long-promised SWOT analysis scheduled for tonight, which is why we have our screen set up. So I don't think there's anything too urgent on our agenda, but we might move through things relatively quickly to get to that place. So with that in mind, you see our first item 4A is a motion for approval of the March 21st, 2016 legislative meeting minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carries. Next, we have discussion of 2015 hazard mitigation plan resolution. Gwen, take it away.
This is from Judy Haluka, our emergency management coordinator, and she said this is one of our final pieces to be making the township fully regulations for mitigation plan, and we need to adopt it to have that be ours, basically. And we did adopt the county's plan, I'm guessing 8 or 10 years ago, from what I remember. So we've done this before.
Now it has changed.
And now they've updated their plan, so we have to adopt this latest
Okay.
version.
Is there any earth-shattering changes in it?
I don't believe so. I kind of glanced at it, but I didn't read it thoroughly, but kind of relying on Judy's recommendation on this one.
And in the resolution itself, it does nothing other than just make reference to the county plan, right?
Right, it is the county plan. Mhm.
All right, well, why don't we put this on our agenda for action? Is there any other discussion I should add? Why don't we put this on our agenda for action on Monday? Think about it. Next, discussion of scheduling future workshop meeting at Masonic Village.
There was a legislative meeting held there in September 2014. At the time, there was talk that another one was hoped to be held over there to reach the further population. And so now it seems to be about time to bring that up again. And at the time, there was talk that a workshop might be a better format for it because the legislative meeting is business and reports, and it's not as much discussion and learning at that one. So you might think about having a workshop where we have some interesting things on the agenda. However, it has to be planned a couple of months in advance for advertising and scheduling the room.
Is there any discussion? Does anybody, we decided to do this in an effort to include folks from over in Masonic. I think it's worth doing again.
And we have there's a lot of new people there. It's amazing. I mean, it's really churning over.
I also agree with the workshop meeting because the comments when we held the legislative meeting it was just motions and actions, very little discussion. And they'd like to hear how we come to decisions.
As I recall last year, there was an issue about bingo.
So we have to schedule it in advance. Because
Don't let that happen.
the room is used, yes.
I don't think we should be doing it at all, but that's my opinion.
Tell us why, Joanne.
Well, because I think it's just, again, singling out one segment of the population.
I was just about to add to this discussion that I think it's very important that we advertise it to the best we can so that it's open to the entire community. The point is not to have it just for Masonic.
Do people not use laptops or they don't have access to online?
You want to draw a crowd? Serve coffee and cookies. Just telling you, it works.
Well, let me ask the question from the other direction. Do you think that there's a way that we could target people who are not the Masonic Village and get them to come to meetings if we had them somewhere different?
I think it's hard. You know, we've tried to get people to join via the emails. I'm not sure people have done that. And when I speak more of the single-family residents. Obviously, Sewickley Heights Manor, I think it's a good draw. But I think there's a third of this population that probably is not engaged. And I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know what else. And you say, how do we reach them? I don't know.
Yeah.
Short of sending them a letter, I don't know how else you reach them. I mean, I try to talk it up. I thought when we did the signs, that was an opportunity to, you know, we gave out the email address, we gave it all, you know, join, book, you can see the minutes. And everybody was so shocked that we had this.
Roughly how many people, what portion of the population are not online?
I don't know. It is an older community, but not that, you know, it's.
I think we send our digest to about 500 people a pop.
And the population here is just under 2,000.
Do you know how many of those are outside of Masonic and Sewickley Heights Manor?
Very few. I couldn't tell you with much
Are you
specificity.
able to discern that? I don't know that you can tell, can you?
Only if their email address is their name, and then I can tell you
Yeah.
who lives where.
It's not push button easy.
No,
That's for
you'd
sure.
have to go by name, I think.
And Joanne, you know, we heard that during the campaign for the seat that we appointed Dan to, but Commissioner or candidate Vecchio,
Yeah,
he said we feel left out. But I'm not
and he
sure.
was at that meeting with the street signs when he got the email. And this is how you can,
I think it would be a shame to not abide by the interests of interested residents, i.e. Masonic,
Right.
because others won't. But at the same time, I think that we should advertise the best we can by email, whatever. Everybody's welcome.
Yeah, and if we don't, we're going to be guilty as charged. We're just basically reinforcing the fact that they're left out, even if it's not true. So if we want to do it,
I
would
just
say-
wish there was a way
Do
that
it.
we could, I don't know, I have to really
This is-
think
this-
about it.
This is really a difficult geographic problem, logistics problem. You have three
Distinct
very
community-
distinct
communities.
geographic areas, and you have three very distinct income brackets as well. So their level of, no, I mean, they'll have different interests. So it's not just like everything, like a legislative meeting when like, oh my God, you know, when can I go to sleep? But I think a workshop would be a better one. But it's difficult. I've never bumped into anything like this before, from a marketing standpoint.
Is this our initiative, or are we being responsive to an inquiry or request from Masonic Village?
It came up during their campaign,
They wanted it.
so it wasn't originally township, it was the newly elected commissioner's initiative.
It wasn't so much special interest, it was more that they have a more difficult time attending these meetings.
Mhm.
Right.
And they do ask good questions and they want to hear the story. Again, I think that if you have citizens that are asking for that, it would be a shame not to. And then I'll say it for the fourth time, that I think we should make an effort to make certain that people know it's for everybody.
And not for nothing, but that is just sort of the de facto political spot over there. When there are campaigns, Heather was over there.
Right, that's where you have.
We have
the
those events over there, yeah.
candidates.
So I think taking the show on the road once a year and going over there is
I
not.
mean, I'm not gonna stand in the way. I just remember last year when they came back and said, oh, we can't have it on Monday night because we have bingo. And I thought, bingo? I have to be nice.
There are a number of issues like that over there. I promise, honest to God.
And I should be nicer about this kind of.
Okay, so how do we go about getting that scheduled, Glenn?
If you want to have it, you pick a month and then you pick like 2 months that if you want to say June or July, and then I'll just call the office at Masonic and see what we can arrange.
Do we want to say June or July?
Later,
July or August? August or September?
August or September.
Okay.
A lot of people are away in August, maybe September.
September.
Hello, sir.
Sorry I'm late.
Okay.
Hi.
The goal here is for us to take a bigger look at what's going on and try to come up with big topics for us to discuss in later sessions, okay? So the goal here is only to come up with ideas for us to talk about later and create a list. The goal here not necessarily to have a detailed discussion at this point.
Could you just be what SWOT stands?
SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I am committed to not letting this take us more than 30 minutes. So we're going to use this timer, right? Handy timer. And the timer is set for us for 6 minutes and 42 seconds on each topic, okay? So we'll go around around the horn, we'll do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and we'll spend minutes and 42 seconds on each one. That's not a lot of time. So again, let's list the topics without trying to get into a discussion. And let's keep ourselves focused on the one topic that we're talking about. So if, for example, you come up with a weakness while we're talking about strengths, keep a little note for yourself. Don't shout it out while we're talking about strengths. Save it when we get to weaknesses. It may be that the subsequent discussion leads to something that we've already passed. So, for example, you might come up with a strength while we're talking about weaknesses. What we'll do is we'll go around the horn twice. So we'll do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. If you come up with, for example, a strength while we're talking about weaknesses, note it down and we'll swing back around a second time. So we'll go 6 minutes and 42 seconds on strengths, 6 minutes and 42 seconds on weaknesses, 6 minutes and 42 seconds on opportunities, 6 minutes and 42 seconds on threats. Then we'll just go one more time around, seconds on strengths, 30 seconds on weaknesses, 30 seconds on opportunities, and 30 seconds on threats. Does that make sense? Let's talk about what we mean by each category. Strengths, obviously, anything that's good about Aleppo, anything from how it's run to why it's good to live here. Weaknesses are the opposite of strengths. There are things that are drawbacks, things that are negatives. Opportunities are obviously aligned with strengths as they're both positives, but I believe opportunities are more of positive things that have potential that we haven't yet realized. Maybe I don't know quite how to articulate it. Maybe things that are less substantive and more focused on unutilized benefit. And then obviously threats or anything that we see as dangerous or things we need to watch for. My last little warning before we get into this, especially as we talk about threats, is that obviously don't forget this is being recorded. There will obviously be some level of protection that goes on to some of this stuff. Some of the things that you might want to mention are not disclosable under the Sunshine Act. So don't blurt those out. If you have something that you want to say as a weakness or a threat, then just say it, for example, as litigation issue number 1, and make a note on what you've considered litigation issue 1. We'll put that on the board, and then we'll come back and make a key later so that we know what they all are. Anybody have any questions? All right, so 6 minutes and 42 seconds for our strengths starts now.
Overall financial condition.
Commissioner compatibility.
We'll deal with spelling some other day.
Police service. Condition of infrastructure.
Tax base.
Tax.
Activity of residents.
I would say tax rate.
Agree.
I would say Quaker Valley School District.
Available talent from residents.
Fire department.
The authority.
Sorry?
Authority,
Oh.
the water and sewer authority.
Sonic Village is a strength. I think our, what's that thing right on the hill here when you come up?
Industrial park?
Industrial Park.
I'm looking at that more as an opportunity than a strength.
Okay. Talk about that in opportunities for the town.
So under staff would be roads.
Mhm.
Would be-
Yeah, I meant all staff.
Well, it may come as a strength and it was weakness, but having our residents clustered is somewhat of a strength in some circumstances. And having 3 clusters is easier than having 15 clusters.
I guess we have to give you credit, transparency.
You,
Well, I know we already have all staff, but I think when is a true strength.
I think we should also,
I suggest we put that when down as minute. Any of the rest of the people's staff.
good idea.
Certainly a significant difference between groups.
Don't want to leave any present out, so professional services, engineering.
So communication would be transparency.
We can put it,
I think.
Yeah, communication is actually better put.
again, I know our police is on there, but our chief,
Mhm.
that's, I mean, I'm being repetitive here, chief of fire as well.
Location.
Safety of the community?
What was that one?
Safety of the community?
Absolutely.
I think our relationship with the mayor. Well, anything else? We have 30 seconds, but I don't think we need to use them if we don't need
It's a
them.
long list of strengths.
It is. All right. We move to weaknesses.
We're putting litigation under threat, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Should be. Process and procedures very weak.
I hate to have two separate line items, but the industrial park,
It can be in both.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
It can be in both.
Small population size.
I think, again, how to word the fact, 3 distinct communities.
yeah, I think community relations or community something. But I mean, we just talked about that. Lack of community events.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Lack of community events.
Oh, yeah.
Lack of key events.
Website.
Lack of retail.
That would have been one I would have put on there, but there's nothing there.
Not really sure about this one, but the Parks and Recreation Center.
That's another one I would have.
Do we have any?
Which something small, it's always been my thing. It would be nice to have.
I don't know how to say this, but it's kind of out of the way, kind of up in the hills. Hard to,
Well, like was your location.
mhm. Said lack of diversified workforce, which is just to say that I feel as if we're dependent on a few people.
I think we have to say high water and sewer rates.
Relative, apparently, we're not
It
as
is.
high as a lot of places.
But it's certainly out there.
Yeah,
It's not in the top 20%.
All right, I'll say weaknesses, relationship between township authority. Which is just to say I don't, we that comes up all the time. So all I'm saying is I don't know how we interact.
COG.
COG,
oh,
that's a weakness.
I'm a newbie here. I'm not really sure this is valid, but I'm looking at that aerial photo there. We don't have any land.
Correct? Well, very little.
You mean
Municipal.
us as a township owned land?
like
No, a lot of it's not
municipal
available. It's vertical or, Maybe.
Developable land?
development,
okay, fine, I'll buy that.
Municipal land, you mean.
Not like
No,
room
I'd
for the
say,
township
Yeah.
to grow. You know,
What
room for
are we,
houses.
1.6 square miles?
yes. Right. I used to be able to hit a 2-iron across that.
Anything else?
This isn't quite the way I want to say it. Image? I mean,
What?
Image? Nobody really knows we're here. You say Aleppo and people go,
See, I find people know
Yeah.
us. I find it, I'm amazed, you know what they know? They know the events that took place when we had police force and we were in the newspaper every day. It's truthfully,
Yeah, I can
I'll say
understand.
hello and they'll say, oh, I remember that.
but I'll bet half the residents or more say I live in Sewickley. I think
Typically
we're
say I
headed-
live in Aleppo.
I
I
think-
say Sewickley and then I say
Yeah.
Aleppo.
But I think we're the redheaded stepsister to some extent.
I agree with that.
That's your out of the way thing.
You know, we don't have any Aleppo, a great place to live signs, so to speak.
But Sewickley is a generic term for everybody. People
Right.
don't say I live in Edgeworth or I live in,
13 different
right, they
municipalities.
say I live in Sewickley.
Well, you do live in Sewickley. Your mailing address is Sewickley.
Right.
You know how many communities are in 15113?
Oh, I know, believe me, I know.
I was
Yes.
shocked.
There are 12 or
Yeah.
13,
What, 13?
counting, the two down the
I
hill.
was told 30.
Yeah.
Goes all the way up the river.
Oh, I know.
And goes into Franklin Park.
I have to find people in each one of them.
Any other weaknesses?
Maybe we ought to net 15143 and make people for it.
All right, let's move along. Opportunities.
Industrial park. We'll put it everywhere.
That's a big one.
I think increasing space, and I understand we don't have a lot of room, but
Sorry,
increasing tax space.
You're saying raising taxes or
Yeah,
more?
increasing
increasing,
tax
okay.
space
Yeah,
building.
Increasing the developed
and,
property.
and isn't,
Make it pie bigger.
and isn't perhaps the industrial park our greatest
Well,
opportunity?
that's one, but I think
Yeah.
looking at what's gonna go on right down here on Glen Mitchell is townhouses and.
Yep.
It's a development. I think development.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Relation of authority, township relations.
It's an opportunity or weakness.
Opportunity. Og.
I'm gonna put this thing. Communities. I don't even know what I necessarily mean by this, but I feel there are communities around us that we might be able to create some synergy with at some point. Glenfields.
Well, that's probably true, particularly if we approach them with an idea of what we want to do with them, rather than expect them to come back at us.
I mean, to some extent, every weakness creates an opportunity.
Mhm.
So I'll throw it in again, community events.
And I'll say, right, that leads me to thinking about Masonic.
Yep, absolutely.
And community events right there.
I'd have to also say long-term planning.
Is that within the scope of our planning committee? Or is that another subject in planning? Are they just zone planners or?
No,
Well, define the scope of our planning commission.
yeah. That's not a bad general comment. Definition of roles, I mean, definition of
Yeah.
whatever you want to call that.
You consider that what? Strength or weakness?
Well, as an example, an opportunity,
Okay. Tell me, lay it on me again.
just long, definition of roles, that's not the right way to say it, but it's building on what Art just said. You know, do we really know what each committee does? And I think definition of staff responsibilities also. If you're planning for the long, you have to know what Gwen does.
Job
In case-
descriptions.
Yeah, I know, but even broader than that, because let's say that Gwen was gone for more than 2 months, she was, and we weren't fortunate enough to have Kim. what do we have to plan? If Tom falls off a truck, what does he really do? And have we made any plans for that?
And you're calling that an opportunity?
Well, you'll find out where the redundancies are. That's an opportunity.
This is caution on another subject, but I think due to the fact that your commissioner is over on a regular basis, things get lost. You focus on something for 2 years and everybody is, and you go someplace else.
Or the agendas change.
And so if you have a long-term plan in place, you can always fall back on that and say, that's what I'll be.
Other opportunities? Glenn, you've been quiet. You must think about opportunities for us.
Well, it's nice to have a long list of strengths.
Mhm.
It's demanding a lot of opportunities.
All right. Going once, going twice. Sold. Threats.
Litigation.
I'm going to break that into litigation number 1. Litigation number 2.
And potential.
Potential.
Potential litigation.
Is that it?
Potential litigation.
Infrastructure.
Anything in particular?
Got water line.
Yeah, on the infrastructure, there are certain areas in the township that where the water and or sewer situation is in very poor condition, particularly the water. We could end up not being able to supply water to some people.
Yeah, I would say infrastructure and lack of appropriate capital reserves. Potential lack of capital reserves.
I think we're threatened by lack of participation. I'll say that's contractual issue number 1.
I'm sorry, expand on that a bit. What do you, no, what you vocalized?
Contractual issue number 1.
Yeah.
That's that.
Ah,
That's
okay.
what threats us. I think we're threatened by the fact that we have only one supplier for water.
Mm-hmm.
Only one supplier for sewage.
Yeah. A hill that was falling down. And whether that's completely fixed.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
But it could occur again.
Yeah, it can. That's what I understand.
Say that landslide. What you mean?
Water out. That would be a real threat.
Gwen, what keeps you up at night?
Not this. It's football.
Yeah, well, we there as a threat, the fact that our manager's a Ravens fan.
Maybe a weakness.
Emergency evacuation was brought up in the thing. Especially because of Masonic Village and to some extent, Strictly Heights man, because we only have one exit point.
Anything keep you up at night?
We,
Litigation.
MDS has an emergency evacuation plan. I don't know how up to date it is.
But it would be tough.
It would be very different. Very, very. You'd have to have more ambulances, fire trucks up there, and it's probably in corner.
They must have a plan.
They do.
Hmm?
They
They
do.
must have a very
It's part of our plan.
precise.
They do. They do. How is it integrated with ours? Because it's going to affect, one's going to affect the other. The crap really hits the stuff.
Yeah, there was a subset of our plan, but during the discussions, it was noted that it's vacation.
Yes.
Locusts and plagues.
Any other threats? Last chance, Gwen. Tell us what. It's not your last chance. We'll come back around. All right, then let's go up to strengths. Anybody think about any new strengths as we were doing the other?
I would like to clarify one.
Yep.
One of the ones, diversity of residents, and that tends to make people think of ethnic diversity. What I mean is diversity of, that's weakness, or ethnic diversity, I think, but diversity of resident talents, grounds is what I meant.
Yeah, I put in the talent later.
Well, I had diversity, so that's what I meant by that.
I think we could combine those two.
Any other strengths? Well, I think the fact that we have a good planning committee is a strength. All right. Any other thoughts on weaknesses? I think, and I want to say this as delicately as possible, because Judy, I know you're going to listen to this, and I don't want you to think that I'm saying that you are a weakness. I don't necessarily feel like I know what to do if there's an emergency. So I'm saying emergency management, but that's how we would manage an emergency if one came up. I just don't know that I would know what to do.
Maybe it's education on that.
Good way to say it, emergency management education.
Just a guy to help us.
I would also say sort of what you were saying before, understanding the scope of the committees.
Mm-hmm.
Where's that on our list? I'm sorry.
I had that as a weakness.
Weakness, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Other weaknesses? Round two, opportunities. Any new opportunities we thought of?
A community engagement, finding ways to reach the other people that we feel are not reached.
I'm gonna put something here just totally out of left field. Baker Valley High School. Talk about that some other day.
And then what?
Opportunities.
Okay.
Internships?
Mhm.
Internships?
For Gwen,
All right, other opportunities? Threats? Computer backups. And all of our records are based in paper.
Really?
Well, paper records, I'll say.
Anonymous.
What's that?
Go for anonymous.
Anonymous what?
The hackers.
Oh, gosh. All right, we're once, twice around. Anybody have anything else? All right. Well, what I think we should do is we should, I will circulate this list. And I think in another workshop meeting, we should perhaps talk about how we prioritize these things, if we think that they should be clustered or grouped together when you get a chance to look at them. And then what we do with them. If we think that there are strengths that we should be fostering, if we think that there are weaknesses or threats that we think we should be paying attention to. I don't think that the idea is to address those things tonight. I think the idea is to make a list tonight.
There is a step in there, when we start down, when we disperse all this information, there should be a one sentence or maybe two, but more likely one sentence defining each items here. Because the definition will change in our minds by next week.
That's smart. I like that.
I was going to say, you've just created the basis for your long-term plan.
You have.
That's right.
So it's an outline to be filled in.
That's right.
And then we discussed before when we talked to Gwen and Kim about having action items.
Yep.
Because you forget. And we've just created some long action items and some broad action items. And I think that's.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think if we go through here and again, maybe as I circulate this around, go through and prioritize them to you, which are the number 1, 2, which are the top 5 things that we should look at. And we'll share together what everybody's.
And while you're at it, write a sentence.
There you go. I like that.
And then next one is who's going to tackle what.
You got it?
Whoever doesn't show up for next week's meeting.
Where did this concept come from?
SWAT
Yeah.
came from a professor at MIT
So
a long time ago.
Very popular business.
Yeah.
good. I think it's good.
In a profit-making thing, this is so difficult.
I can imagine.
All right. Well, if nobody else has anything, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. We'll see you next
You
week.
know, you didn't even take motions for adjournment.
I don't.
That used to be my role.